Mr. President.
Senator from West Virginia.
Mr. President, I rise again today to share the story of this beautiful young lady, Jessie Grubb. She's a West Virginian who passed away a year ago last week, and she was only 30 years old and such a bright young lady with a great future ahead of her. After years of struggling with heroin addiction, she had been doing very well. She had been sober since August of 2015, but she had surgery for an infection related to a running injury and died a day after leaving the hospital. Her story with addiction is known to many. We've told it many times here. Her father, David, a former West Virginia state legislator who served with me and a friend of mine, he shared their family struggle with addiction when President Obama traveled to West Virginia to bring attention to the growing opiate epidemic that we all are encountering in all of our states. West Virginia has been hit the hardest by the opiate epidemic, where drug overdose deaths have soared by more than 700% from 1999 through 2013. More than 600 lives were lost last year, just last year alone, to prescription drug overdose, legal prescription drugs. Jessie's story and her family's pain are all too common in West Virginia and throughout this nation. As I've said, we lost 627 West Virginians to opiates last year alone. When you think about, this is a pill, this is a product that's manufactured by some of the most regarded institutions as pharmaceutical manufacturers in the country. It's been approved by the Federal Drug Administration, Food and Drug Administration, who basically says what we can use and what we should consume should be safe for us. It's then prescribed by the most trusted person that's not in our family and next to our family is a doctor. So you would think that this is something that should be helpful for us, that should be part of the healing process. And instead it's been part of the killing process. And it has no home. It's a silent killer. We kept our mouths shut. We didn't say anything for so many years. And now we have an epidemic on our hand, which we're trying to control. We have 61,000 West Virginians who use prescription pain medications for non-medical purposes in 2014. This includes 6,000 teenagers. But as I've said, Mr. President, our state's not unique. Your wonderful state of North Carolina is facing the same challenges we are. Every day in our country, 91 Americans die from a prescription opiate or heroin overdose. And since 1999, we've lost almost 200,000 Americans to prescription opiate abuse. Jessie's story deeply impacted President Obama, and I spoke with him about her death and the pain her family is going through, which he reached out again to David and Kate and the entire Grubb family. It's just horrific. When President Obama came to Charleston, Jessie was in a rehab facility in Michigan for the fourth time. Before her life was taken over by addiction in 2009, Jessie's future was bright. She was a beloved daughter of David and Kate Grubb, a beloved sister to her 4 sisters, and a beloved friend to so many. She was an excellent student, scoring in the 99th percentile on all of her tests since she'd been in education. She was a cheerleader at Roosevelt Junior High School, and she was an avid runner, an athlete. At the time of her death, she was looking forward to running in her first marathon. She'd been training for that. The only trouble she had ever gotten in at school was when she protested the Iraq War, and she was on the right side of that one. Needless to say, she was a natural-born leader. After graduating from Capitol High School, she was thrilled and looking forward to her bright future at the University of North Carolina, Nashville. She was sexually assaulted during her first semester, which caused her to withdraw from school and return to Charleston. The traumatic event that caused Jessie to turn to heroin to escape the pain was that horrific experience. Over the next 7 years, Jessie would battle her addiction. She would overdose 4 times and go into rehab 4 times. But up until her death, she had been sober for 6 months and was focused on making a life for herself in Michigan. And all of her hard work was ruined because of a careless mistake. Mr. President, I introduced this piece of legislation. It's bipartisan. Everybody's been so kind on that. Makes so much common sense. Introduced it almost a year ago. And at the time, I told David and Kate and the family, I said, this is something that should be a no-brainer. It's something we should easily pass here. It was called Jessie's Law after this beautiful young lady. And all it basically said, and this is after, when I learned about how the events unfolded, And I'll explain that, and then I'll go into the bill. Her parents, David and Kate, traveled to Michigan for her surgery. They traveled to Michigan, and they told her doctors and the hospital personnel that she was a recovering addict. And however, after Jessie's surgery, and she confirmed it. She says, yes, I've struggled, and I'm clean, and I'm proud, and I want to get healthy, and I want to get my leg injury fixed, and I want to go run that marathon. And after Jessie's surgery, the discharging doctor, who said he didn't know she was a recovering addict. Now, the parents were there when she was admitted. She told them, and you would have thought, they asked you, do you have any allergies? Do you have penicillin? What do you, you would have thought they would have flagged it. I'm a recovering addict. They sent her home. They sent her home with a prescription for 50 oxycodone. 50 oxycodone. Because they did not know, because her records had not been properly identified, that she was very prone, being a recovering addict, to any type of opiate. There's other ways of treating this pain. Not knowing it, the doctor went ahead and released her with what a normal person would get of pain relief. Well, needless to say, she should have never gotten that prescription. No way, shape, or form. And we must assure this never happens again. That is why today I'm reintroducing Jessie's Law. Now, let me tell you what I ran into. We thought, and working with David and Kate and the family, they had accompanied her as the parents. They're with their beautiful daughter. They both confirm that she has had an addiction problem and she is recovering. Please, we want you to notify anybody who handles, anyone who dispenses, anyone who's working with Jessie. Please know that it's very fragile what we're dealing with here. So I said, okay, we'll write the legislation. We did, and we wrote the legislation. If you had a consenting guardian, parent, and a consenting patient, that basically it should be flagged because of privacy laws. We know we're very concerned about that. For some reason, I cannot get past the bureaucracy of getting this bill to the floor to be voted on because they're saying there's objection to the privacy laws with the parents being involved. So guess what? I finally called David and I called Kate and I said, I know you would think it makes common sense that basically we should be able to pass the legislation the way we would like to pass it with the parents, if they acknowledge it, and the patient, which is their child, acknowledges it, and they both are cooperating that it should be done. So in order to try to get this piece of legislation passed as quickly as possible, we're taking off the parents. It's only the patient herself. So Jessie comes in and she says, listen, my parents might be with me, but I want you to know I'm a recovering addict, and please make sure everybody who handles my case knows that. That's all we're asking for. And I am hopeful, Mr. President, that yourself and others will be able to join, because we don't want anybody in North Carolina going through what we've gone through in West Virginia or what the Grubb family has gone through and losing this beautiful, bright, talented young lady. That should never happen in this country. And even the health care providers are saying, we need this legislation to go forward so that we can identify, we can mark that, hotline that, red line that, so anybody that's handling Jessie from the beginning to the end, especially when they're discharged, is going to have knowledge. And no way, shape, or form will anyone ever be prescribed an opiate or any type of addictive type painkiller that they're going to be affected of, because their life has been changed by it already. So the bottom line is that we need to go at this problem from every angle and with the help of everyone. Family assistance, counseling programs, drug courts, consumer and medical education, law enforcement support, state and federal legislation. We need everything. This is a fight we can't lose. This is the first time in my lifetime that my state has fallen under 50% of adults of working age not working. 50%. I'm down to 49.6%. And we've always had a reputation of having some of the greatest workers. Hard workers give you a good hardworking day for a good hardworking pay. Have always been there. I just have too few of them. And I said there's three things that keep you out of a workforce. It's basically a lack of skill sets. It's either you're addicted or you have a criminal record, or a combination. Well, the addiction that's taken over is basically changing the lives of Americans, it's changing the lives of West Virginians, and ruining families. There's no way that her sisters and David and Kate, her parents, are ever going to get over losing Jessie. There's no reason they should have lost Jessie. There's no reason you should lose another North Carolinian. None of us. In a situation where they're going in and they're identifying with all the professionals the help that they need and the assistance they're asking for, we owe that. We owe that to every person in America, and really we owe it to Jessie. So I'm asking for the cooperation of all my colleagues and continued support, tireless work that everyone's been done. That Jessie's death is heartbreaking and it reminds us all that this is one death that could have been prevented, and it's one death that should never happen again because of a lack of legislation that prevents us from the privacy laws that basically identifies a person that is in need. And if you're looking at addiction, then you have to be looking at addiction as an illness, and an illness needs care. And if they need care, then we're going to give them the care, but protect them while they're getting that care. That's all this does. So with that, Mr. President, I thank you. I hope that it's something that we can do as quickly as possible. We'll be forever grateful. In Jessie's memory, her parents are going to be there forever grateful, but basically Jessie's life will not be in vain. And that's exactly why I'm here. I'm not going to sit still and lose a beautiful person who could contribute to society the way this young lady was going to contribute to society, and say, okay, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. We can do, and we can do it in her honor. So with that, I say thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.